Face to Face with me, Azad Ali. This week, we're going to be talking about Yemen, a place that's in the news, but really a place that we don't really perhaps know enough. And amazingly, my guest has put together something I've never heard of in my lifetime, which is a 40 hadiths on Yemen itself. So join me to find out about the virtues of Yemen, how important it is, and also the struggles and challenges that it's facing. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Face with me, Azad Ali. This week we're talking about Yemen, its virtues and its struggle. And alhamdulillah, in the studio with me is Yasrab Shah, Director of Fundraising with Muslim Head. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Jazakallah khair for joining us. Let's start with virtues of Yemen.
That's a big one. Look, it's generally when we launch an appeal at Muslim Hands, we're a faith-based organisation. We don't hide that at all. It's very clear from our name. And what we try to do is to connect whatever appeal that we're doing, whatever time of the year, to our faith. To what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say about that in the Quran, and what does the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say about a certain issue from a hadith. And generally, it could be generic advice in that helping your Muslim brother. Okay. And of course, that's something we 100% believe in, and we want to share that with people. What we found was a couple of years ago, where alhamdulillah, we were given an opportunity to work directly in Yemen. And alhamdulillah, Muslim Hands is one of the few aid agencies, British Muslim charities, that alhamdulillah is registered in Yemen to do the work. So one thing is you can work through partners, but alhamdulillah, we're directly registered doing the work there. So along with other colleagues, we went into researching a bit of background to Yemen. Are there any ayahs or ahadith which speak about Yemen, and something that we could, inshallah, connect our donor base to, and Eman channel viewers to connect them to support the people of Yemen. I started to uncover a few things, and I was saying to our communications department, look, I feel I should write a blog about the virtues of the people of Yemen. I kept opening. It's almost like a Pandora's box in a good way. Yeah. That the more I kind of looked into the topic and spoke with scholars, more and more just kept coming through. So I said, oh, let's do a series of blogs. And honestly, what happened was that actually, just over a year ago, there was so much material coming from the Quran and the Sunnah that we said, look, in line with our tradition, let's bring out a brand new 40 hadith collection about the virtues of Yemen and its people. And alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and your du'as, alhamdulillah, we brought that out.
Is it 40 hadiths though?
It's actually 42.
Yeah, you kept to the tradition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Good. Yeah, absolutely. And people might say, well, why did you call it a 40 hadith collection? The reason is some people say that the hadith about that is actually a weak hadith. And I'm following in the sunnah of Imam Nawawi, which is probably the most famous 40 hadith collection on planet Earth. He actually did 42. So following his sunnah, we've also done 42. The truth is, we could have done many more. There was so much. So this actually, I'll be honest with you.
These are all verified?
Verified, and we've had even Yemeni scholars looking at it as well as other ulama.
That's actually quite amazing, because
it knocked me backwards for 6.
In my lifetime, I don't recall a collection or a 40 hadiths about a particular place.
So one thing I have seen, and again, it's because of my work. So for example, when we appealed for Palestine, Syria, we've looked at the virtues of Sham. And one hadith which always stuck in my mind is the Prophet ﷺ said, Allahumma barik lana fi sha'mina, Allahumma barik lana fi yaminina. He said, oh Allah, bless us in our Sham, and oh Allah, bless us in our Yemen. So for me, what was super relevant at that time was obviously what was going on in Syria and in Palestine. So we talked a lot about the front of that hadith while still referencing the back of the hadith. Now, the two are incredibly important. And what I've learned from my teachers is that in the future, there's a hadith about this, that in the future, there's an irony here. Yes, at the moment, they're going through trials and tribulations. And if I was to say to somebody, fancy going to Syria or Palestine, or do you want to go to Yemen? They'll be like, maybe later, I'm okay. But the reality is, in the future, things will flip, that Sham and Yemen will be places of safety and security. The other thing I would say is, look how he spoke about them. He said, our Sham and our Yemen. He personalized those two lands in our Islamic tradition. That got me thinking, and the team thinking, and when we started research, we uncovered some incredible gems. I mean, there's one after the other, but I'll give you a few of a highlight reel.
Yeah.
first thing I'll say, I won't be able to cover all of the 42 hadith. What I will say is you can go to the Muslim Hands website under the Yemen appeal, and it's freely downloadable. We just want to spread that knowledge and for people to know.
Have you printed it, published
We
it?
haven't yet.
You should definitely.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
It's important to be.
We just wanted to make
reading
it
is another losing tradition
true.
of our community.
So it may well be with your du'as that maybe next month we may do some prints. We've kept it online just to make it fully accessible. There isn't a cost. Just they can click and download it straight onto their phones, tablets, computers. So just to start us off, about Yemen, we're at Eman channel. Look, Eman. The Prophet ﷺ speaks about Iman being Yemeni. He said, Al-Imanu Yamanin, wal-Hikmatu Yamaniya, and he said, wal-Fiqhu Yamanin. He said, faith is Yemeni. It's a Yemeni affair. He said, wisdom is a Yemeni affair. And he said, understanding of this religion is Yemeni. In another hadith, and this is all in the 40 hadith collection, 42, yeah. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, Khiyaru Rijalu Ahl Yemen. He said, the best of men are the men of Yemen. And then he said, Al-Iman Yemani. He said, faith is Yemeni. And then he said a statement which literally knocked me out of my chair. He said, Wa ana Yemanin, and I am Yemeni. Can you imagine that? That the Prophet ﷺ associated himself specifically with the people. And before people say, but how can that be? It's actually just a short Islamic history lesson that makes it very clear that he was ﷺ Yemeni indeed. We'll just take a very famous story. We learned this as kids, right? The story of the Zamzam well. Yeah. We learned that as children, that Ibrahim Islam is instructed to leave Sham. Interesting. He leaves Sham to go to Mecca, where he will leave his wife Hajar Islam, who's from Egypt, with their son Ismail Islam. He leaves them there in the desert, but as he leaves them, he makes a dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, oh Allah, I've left my family in a barren valley. I ask you for there to be vegetation there, and that you bring a people whose hearts incline to these people. And subhanAllah, as Islamic history will show us, what happened very soon after that event is that there is a tribe called Jurham who are traveling in the deserts at that time, around Mecca. They see birds, and they think birds must be water. They go to the Zamzam, and we know the famous story, what happened next. What maybe we didn't notice at the time is the Jurham tribe are Yemeni. Yeah. And they had themselves gone north looking for water. The other thing that I will make mention is that we know for a fact that Ismail Islam married at least 2 women from that tribe. At least 2 that we can confirm. He learned from them Arabic. So the asl of the Arab, the origin of the Arabs is Yemeni. That's just so even if we didn't go into this argument, the Prophet ﷺ was an Arabian prophet. Yeah. The origin of Arabs is Yemen. Yeah. So he's a Yemeni prophet. There's categorical. But if somebody said wants further proof, you can say, well, don't forget that Ismail al-Islam will marry into the Jurham tribe. From his lineage, noble lineage, will come the Messenger of God himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So for real, he is Yemeni. What I find also amazing with the scholars' point, and I love that, they said of all the hearts that Allah found on planet Earth to incline to Hajar Islam and Ismail Islam, and consider this was a one woman with her child. But look at the adab they had with her. They said, may we settle here and drink from the well. What she said is, you can, but the well is mine. Yeah. That was the only condition. But which tribe do you know that if confronted by a solitary woman and her baby son would have gone into negotiation? Right. It shows who they are as well. Yeah. But it's amazing that the scholars said, and Allah chose Yemeni hearts to incline. That is a very profound point. And scholars will go on to say, and you'll find it in the hadith collection, that Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he says that the first people to even perform the Hajj, when Ibrahim Islam is commanded by Allah, وَأَذِّن فِي النَّاسِ بِالْحَجِّ, do the adhan for Hajj amongst the people, the first people to respond were Ahl al-Yemen, with the people of Yemen. They're the first people who did the Hajj. So the traces or the smell of Yemen in Islam is clear as day, but you have to kind of go looking for it. Yeah. And that's kind of what happened to me a couple of years ago. I went looking for it, and I'm just amazed that that this rich history. I mean, I actually it's a
really
gem.
Yeah, is really motivated by this, because there's so much actually interconnectedness and kind of history to do with Yemen and everything else that people kind of oversee, which it is a shame.
Well, the irony is, at the time, as we speak now, there's a huge humanitarian crisis happening in the land of Yemen. What shakes me is something that UNICEF put out a couple of years ago when they said that every 10 minutes, a child under the age of 5 dies from preventable causes. What do they mean by that? We just couldn't get food, water, and medicines to them when they needed it most. So as Muslim Hands, we have to respond. We're a very child-centered charity, so we have to respond. what we find a huge honor from Allah that we can serve the people of Yemen who, I'll give you an example of the other, you can say, function of the people of Yemen in the, and this is Allah's decisions, and I'm just reflecting on some ahadith. The Prophet ﷺ said that one day he was caused by Allah to face Sham. So Sham was in front of him. And and if you look at where Sham is, Syria, Palestine, Jordan, that area, part of Egypt, to the north. So he had Sham in front of him, and he had Yemen behind him. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's a hadith Qudsi, Allah spoke to him and said, Ya Muhammad, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, inni ja'altu ma tujahaka ghanimatan wa rizqa. Indeed, I have put what's in front of you, i.e. the land of Sham, as a spoils of war and sustenance for you and your ummah. وَمَا وَرَاءَ ظَهْرِكَ مَدَدًا. And there's a really amazing point made here. And what is behind your blessed back is God's help. Now, it's when you look for it, you have to go looking for it, you will find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has used the people of Yemen to spread Islam everywhere. So I come from the subcontinent, but I know I've got some Yemeni lineage, and maybe a lot of the Eman channel viewers will also have Yemeni lineage without them realizing it. The people of Yemen spread Islam far and wide.
Let me just stop you there. No, I totally agree with you. And I think the city of Liverpool is testament to that.
Indeed.
We're going to just go for a short break. It's a very interesting conversation. Don't go away. Join us after the break. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Face to Face with me, Azad Ali. So just before the break, you were narrating the Hadith Qudsi about, in front is the Sham and the reward for the Prophet ﷺ and the Ummah, and behind him is the support.
Yes, it's support. I'm tingling as you say it. I'm just listening to you. It is amazing, and it does something. And I think it's because of the fact the Prophet ﷺ, he said faith is Yemeni. There's another hadith where he says, "Inni la ajidu nafasa rabbikum min qibl al-Yemen." Indeed, I feel the rescuing wind of your Lord coming from the direction of Yemen. So the Prophet ﷺ is directly telling us Yemen is special. And we've been on, a lot of us have done Hajj and Umrah, and I do want to reference something here. One, we mentioned that the people of Yemen were the first people to perform Hajj. The other thing I want to make mention of, when we go to do Tawaf, fundamental part of Umrah and Hajj, right, to do Tawaf, we'll all be aware we start at the Black Stone, right, Al-Hajar al-Aswad, and then we move anti-clockwise. We know that. Maybe some of us were also more educated to know that the corners of the Kaaba are facing towards the compass points and actually have names. So for example, once you've gone past the Black Stone, you'll come to Ar-Rukn al-Iraqi, the Iraqi corner pointing east. Then you'll come to Ar-Rukn al-Shami pointing north to the land of Sham. And then you will come to Ar-Rukn al-Yemeni, the Yemeni corner pointing south. What we maybe weren't aware of also is that the Black Stone itself is regarded as a Yemeni corner. We maybe didn't realize that the Prophet ﷺ, he never touched any other corner of the Kaaba other than the two Yemeni corners. We have hadith narrated that Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu said, I never saw the Prophet ﷺ touch anything of the house apart from the two Yemeni corners. Look what he said, the two Yemeni corners. So the Black Stone and the Yemeni corner are the two Yemeni corners of the Kaaba. That's already something, it sparks something in you to say, why? There's got to be a reason for this, and an ishara to the greatness of the people of Yemen and how Allah has used them in history. And something to make mention of the Kiswa. We take it all for granted, right? The Kiswa of the Kaaba. Again, many of us are not aware, neither was I a couple of years ago, that the Kiswa was first placed by a Yemeni king mentioned twice in the Quran. His name is Tub'a, may Allah be pleased with him. He's mentioned twice in the Quran. That Tub'a will come to Makkah al-Mukarramah maybe over 1,000 years before the Prophet ﷺ, and he will be the first one, this Yemeni king will be the first one to place the Kiswa around the Kaaba. And the Kiswa at that time doesn't look like as it does now, where it's black and gold. It was what's called al-Hibara, and al-Hibara is a cotton or a cloth which is what's called al-Burd al-Yemeni al-Mukhattat. It's a pinstriped, but it's not equally pinstriped, colorful cloth which is Yemeni. So what the scholars say is, and we have a hadith about this, that kana ahabba thiyabi ila rasulillahi sallallahu al-hibara. The most beloved of clothing to the Prophet sallallahu was the Yemeni hibara cloth. And so he would wear that. But not only that, what the scholars say, which is beautiful, is that Allah not only dressed his beloved in the Yemeni cloth, but the Kaaba at that time was also dressed in Yemeni cloth as well. And one hadith I would definitely, one of my favorite ones from the collection that I'd love to share with the Eman channel viewers is hadith number 9, where a companion, Jubair ibn Mut'im radiallahu anhu, he said that we were with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on a road between Makkah and Medina. So picture the scene. The companions walking with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam between Makkah and Medina, the Ansar in fact of Medina Munawwara. He said, there's about to come now the people of Yemen over this verge, and the ka'annahum sahab, they're like clouds. It's a beautiful description for the people of Yemen, meaning like shelter and shade. I've lived in the desert, and trust me, if you got clouds, alhamdulillah, it's good, right? So they're a shade for this ummah. But then he said a statement which even astounded his audience, the companions, radiallahu anhu. He said, hum khiyaru man fil ard. They are the best people on planet Earth. He's talking to who? The Ansar. Yeah. The Ansar, alhamdulillah, they responded, by the way. So it doesn't say who said it, but it says, Rajulun min Ansar. This is a man from the Ansar, he asked, he said, Wala nahnu ya Rasulullah. Aren't we, O Messenger of Allah? Yeah. Like, aren't we the best on planet Earth? It says in the hadith, Fasakata, the Prophet was silent. He asked again a second time. Fasakata, again the Prophet was silent. He asked yet a third time, Wala nahnu ya Rasulullah. Are we not, O Messenger of Allah? And it says here, Fi thalitha kalimatan da'ifa, that the Prophet said something like, in a very low voice, Illa antum, apart from you. Meaning the people of Yemen are only second to the Ansar. But here we go, Brother Azad. There's a huge, massive irony in the hadith. Again, Islamic history, which we maybe need to really pick up those books and read it. Definitely. The Ansar of Medina Munawwara are from two tribes, which I think most people are aware of, Al-Aws and Al-Khazraj. Yeah. But that's maybe where the discussion ends. Oh, we heard that they used to fight each other, and the Prophet will bring serenity there. But what we didn't maybe realize is that the tribes of Al-Aws and Al-Khazraj are actually originally from the tribe of Al-Azd. And Al-Azd was a Yemeni tribe which only moved north because of the Sayl al-Arim. It's a flood that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran. When it flooded, some Yemeni tribes went north and they settled in Medina Munawwara. So the huge irony in the hadith is what? That the Prophet ﷺ said the best people on planet Earth are the people of Yemen. The Ansar are asking, aren't we? Yeah. The irony is the Ansar, the helpers of Medina Munawwara, are themselves Yemeni in origin.
It's a double kind of confirmation there. I mean, it's really fascinating and very uplifting. But unfortunately, the situation in Yemen at the moment, there is a huge struggle.
I'm glad you mentioned that. The reality is, I don't think there's anything second to it. I mean, that Yemen is number one. It's the greatest humanitarian crisis on planet Earth. Where you have millions of people, I think it's like 11.7 million people, do not know where their next meal is coming from. It just tells you the scale of the problem. It's a
combination of natural disaster and war.
Absolutely, man-made and natural disasters. What I would say, again, is that when Allah loves a people, He tests them. And the people of Yemen, no doubt, are beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's an ayah actually speaking of that very point in Surah Al-Ma'idah, which is for the people of Yemen, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Allah will bring into this ummah a qawm, a people, yuhibbuhum wa yuhibbuna. It's remarkable what He says, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah says, I will bring into this ummah a people that Allah loves and they love Him. But notice, it said first, not they love Allah and Allah loves them. Allah loves them and they love Allah. Yeah. Part of the reason why people don't talk about Yemen, what I heard from our own staff on the ground in Yemen, is that they said these are Ahl Sabr, these are people of patience. They won't even complain. They said they won't raise their voice to complain or even ask for food. They rely on Allah. This is who they are. And this is why, when we say faith, not we say, the Prophet ﷺ says faith is Yemeni, you start to get a fragrance of what is Eman.
I mean, in terms of the dire needs.
Absolutely. I mean,
what
so what we're trying to do as a humanitarian response to that, driven by what we hear from Allah and His Messenger, some faith-based organization, and I'm sure Eman channel viewers are with us on this, we have to act, we have to respond. So alhamdulillah, our intervention has been trying to center around, that statistic we said about children. So we're providing school meals for school children on a daily basis, alhamdulillah, and people are really warming to that and supporting that program. It keeps the children in school, but also guarantees at least once a day they're getting some food. Right. The other things we're doing is water wells. And I feel I must say this hadith. It's in Sahih Muslim. Because I remember thinking, where is that hadith from? And it's Sahih Muslim. The hadith is the Prophet ﷺ, he says, Inni la bi'ukri hawdi adudu nasa li ahl al-Yaman. Adribu bi'asaya hatta yarfada alayhim. That the Prophet ﷺ will indicate on the day of judgment that past this sirat, that bridge will be his basin, which is the hold of the Prophet ﷺ. He says, you'll find me at some say levitating or at the center of my basin, and I will be pushing people back for the people of Yemen. I will actually use my staff on the people to push them back onto the people of Yemen. Drink first. Allahu Akbar. that the people of Yemen will drink first from his blessed hand on the Day of Judgment. Why is that? So Imam An-Nawawi rahmatullahi will respond to that and say, it's because he speaks about the origin of the Ansar being Yemeni and the origins of the people of Makkah also being Yemeni, the Jurham tribe. And of course, not only that, from there, before and after, the huge influence of the people of Yemen. So we take those statements absolutely to heart, and I'm sure your viewers will as well. So alhamdulillah, one of the things that we wanted to share with the viewers is that we're digging water wells, rehabilitating water wells. So those millions who don't have safe water, we are in the process of rehabilitating water wells. We're also operating mobile medical clinics. You can imagine parents are being faced with a most disgusting choice, which is, do I take this sick child of mine to hospital or do I feed the rest of my children? I'm a parent. I can't deal with that. That is not a choice you're meant to be making, not in the 21st century. And we're old enough to know that we promised, Band-Aid and Ethiopia and what happened, never again. We will not see a famine like that on ever again. And yet it's happening on our watch now. So what I would ask people, the Eman channel viewers, to do is to respond, inshallah.
Food, youngsters is
so we're doing emergency food packs, providing school meals. We're digging water wells, mobile medical clinics. We're trying our best. And there's millions in need. But we will keep going.
Yeah, one of the questions people have is like, is the food, is the aid and everything else, is it going directly, or
that's a great question.
Alhamdulillah, problems.
Look, the good news I have for you is, alhamdulillah, we're one of the very few British Muslim charities actually registered to work actually in Yemen. So alhamdulillah, we're doing projects in Ma'rib in the north, we're doing projects in Aden, we're doing projects in Hadramaut, medical camps, water wells, that's looking after school children. Muslim Hands itself is implementing that work. So I can, if you want a guarantee that Muslim Hands Alhamdulillah UK is delivering that work directly there. And what I'd also maybe like to share, one of the last things I would like to say from the hadith collection is, imagine a scene where the Prophet ﷺ is in Medina al-Munawwara with his companions, and he turns to his companions and who make space for him, and he says, Aina ashabi, where are my companions? And he's talking to his companions. He says, Alladina ana minhum wa hum minni, the ones that I am from them and they are from me. Adkhulu jannah wa yadkhulunaha ma'i, I will enter paradise and they will enter with me. The companions astounded. They said, are we not those people? Are we not your brothers? Are we not your companions? Inform us, فَأَخْبِرْنَا يَا Rasulullah. Inform us. And he says, Na'am Ahl Yemen. Yes, it's the people of Yemen.
Subhanallah. Perfect.
So that drives the works.
It's a fantastic point to finish the show on. And inshallah, viewers do respond to the call. And I definitely do recommend that actually you print the book, publish it, and I think people should buy it.
If we're going to print it, we'll put it straight back to the Yemen Post.
Exactly, the money can go towards as a
the people of Yemen.
I think it hits two birds in one stone. People can read, get knowledge, and also help people.
Jazakallah.
Okay, on that note, I'll see you next week, inshallah, for another face-to-face. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.